All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Online Warriors podcast. My name is Nerdbomber.
And I'm Techtic.
And we're here in the dog days of summer for the Online Warriors podcast. I know technically that's like the end of August, but for the Online Warriors podcast, it kind of happens around the beginning of August because we always have a ton of vacations this time of year. So this week, unfortunately, we will not have Illeagle with us. He is out of the office, kicking his feet up in sunny sand somewhere, not talking to us, but probably listening to us, right?
Probably.
Hopefully. I know he loves to hear our voices. Anyway, just some housekeeping. Next week, we won't have a typical episode because it'll just be Illeagle on his own, and we'll actually be the ones on vacation.
And since he has no one to bounce off of, it's just going to be a week off.
Yeah, so we'll have, the episode published with a rehash of one of our old interviews. So for any of you new listeners who haven't really gotten a chance to dig into the backlogs, we have some pretty great interviews. We'll pick one of our favorites and we'll, recycle it for next week. So just a little heads up, if you're looking for nerdy news, unfortunately next week you'll probably have to go elsewhere. But don't worry, we'll be back after that.
We promise.
This week, we have a ton of new stuff to discuss. There was a bunch of announcements coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. We picked 3 that we were really either excited or skeptical about to talk about.
Mainly jazzed.
Mainly jazzed. Slightly skeptical. But we'll get into that. But first, Techtic, how are you enjoying the summer weather?
Summer weather has been absolutely fantastic. I feel like I've gotten you on the putz around train.
Oh, I love a good putz now.
I mean, for years, Nerdbomber would wonder, what am I doing? I'm just kind of meandering about the yard, and I think I got her on board of putzing. When the weather's nice, I putz. It's great. Just kind of touch things, lift things, move things. It's great.
Well, I'm a big pool person, but there's a specific time of day when you can hop in the pool. And I feel like if you go in the pool before 10 a.m., it just doesn't work. You're spending way too much time in the pool. You're definitely going to get sunburned then because you're not going to remember to reapply sunscreen. It's also just too early. The pool water may be warm. It might be sunny, but it's still a little too cool. And the breeze gets you a little nippy. So I've embraced the putz around. I walk around with my little watering can. I water all the plants. I look at our crops. I'm like, oh, look at all these snap peas. Look at all these tomatoes. And yeah, the putz is great. I like it.
It's good putz.
So, like I said, this week, we have a bunch of San Diego Comic-Con stuff that we kind of cherry picked from. We have one surrounding the boys, one surrounding the Hellboys.
Okay.
And yeah, see what I did there? And one surrounding a boy who we thought was dead, but may not be? ? We'll get to that later. Let's start off, though, with the boys.
Okay. So, the announcement specifically is they are making a prequel series starring Stormfront and Soldier Boy. This is absolutely fascinating because if you dig into a lot of the history, they were kind of the founding members of Vought, and Stormfront specifically kind of disappeared in the background or altogether really because she was a racist, problematic person. And so if you've seen the boys, you know this came to light, and that's why she came forward as this new identity being Stormfront. But also the history and everything behind how they came up, there was a lot to unpack there. And so getting more of that is kind of really exciting.
And, I'm usually not too big on the spinoff train. We've kind of talked about the MCU kind of bashing my love for universes spinning off of each other and having, prequels and sequels and all that. But we watched Gen V. Yes, it was Gen V, which was kind of the offshoot. It wasn't a sequel series, but the series about, the university setting for Supes and how they're kind of brought up. And it was a lot better than I expected. In fact, I actually enjoyed that, I think, better than the last season of The Boys. And by the last season of The Boys, at the time that came out, we still haven't caught up on The Boys. That's on our to-do list for our vacation. We were hoping to really dig into that now that it's all out and just kind of watch them back to back to back so we can binge. But I actually really like Gen V, I think, better than the last couple seasons of The Boys. So I'm kind of excited. I think the world of The Boys is just so rich with lore and history and I'm super excited for this. And not only that, but I'm also really excited for, seeing these characters that I feel like we really only got a taste of in the like regular boys series, and kind of digging into them a little bit more, especially given the actors who will be like portraying these characters. Aya Cash is great. If you have heard me talk about You're the Worst at all, I really enjoyed that show. Like, it's a snarky, smarmy rom-com for misfits, basically. Loved her in that. Thought that her take on Stormfront was great. Also, like Jensen Ackles, he's basically one of the epitomes of nerd culture at this point, between his time at Supernatural and, everything else that he's done in his career. I feel like he really embraces like nerd culture. So the two of them together, just taking these characters a step further and really digging into their background and expanding the universe of the boys, I think is going to be really, really awesome to watch.
And what's really exciting about this is we've talked a lot about various TV shows and video games and all this other stuff taking creative liberty with the content and then just kind of butchering it. But I think the boys, relative to the comic book and the creative liberties that they've taken, has been a smash hit, period. And so we can't just look at that existing content and go, okay, this is what you can expect, because they've taken twist and turn after twist and turn. And so it's going to be this whole new thing that we don't know what to expect. We know we're probably going to see some founding of Herogasm, which that's kind of this weird, fun section of this universe. But like, all in all, it's just open-ended and excitement. So I'm here for it.
My only reservation, and this is not even just with this show, but just I feel like any streaming series in general now, is the wait. I feel like now that this has been announced, I feel like we're going to have to wait so long to actually see this, and it's going to make me sad because I really want to watch it. Because I feel like the time period between seasons of The Boys, time period between pretty much any streaming series ever, like I'm looking at you, Stranger Things, like we wait 1 or 2 years to get the next season of anything these days, and I want it now.
I will say the Stormfront part of the story is going to be significantly more interesting. You're going to have a basically righteous Captain America gone cynical and kind of maniacal, which is like, this happens all the time, versus a superhero that literally hung out with Hitler. That story is going to be far more interesting than the Captain America trope. And I'm excited. I'm sorry I keep saying I'm excited, but like I just want to keep hinting at the things that we can expect. We can expect a round table filler. We can expect various German scientists messing around with Compound B. All of that stuff that you see in like dark World War II experimentation. I mean, we've all seen that dog head experiment that's messed up. That's what we can expect.
And like, honestly, alt history stuff I always find super fascinating. I think it's one of my favorite genres that is underutilized. I feel like we don't get enough alt history. Like Fallout is a really great example of something that is super popular that, kind of approaches the alternative history angle, both in the games and in the TV show. And I feel like there's just so much meat on the bone there. Like I know Wolfenstein kind of took a look at it too, but like this is just, obviously very different, and I'm excited. Really excited. I know we keep saying that, but like, I don't know. This is just one of those announcements that I wasn't expecting at all, and I'm super excited to see that we got.
Do you have anything else to say with that, or just excited?
Just excited, man. I don't usually, like, coming out of conferences lately, I feel like I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer. I don't have like a ton of excitement for a lot of things, but this one actually got me pretty jazzed. So. All
right. So with that, we're going to move on to the other boy, the Hellboy.
Yo, I was actually really excited about this as well.
I thought you were going to be terrified.
That too. Like, I'm not going to watch this. But for
You're not going to watch this?
No. This is too... I know that sounds like the antithesis. Like, I'm really excited for this, but I'm also like definitely not going to watch it because it's too scary for me. But I think for fans of Hellboy, this is one of the closest comic adaptations that I think that we've seen. And that's not a huge knock. Like, obviously, there have been prior Hellboys to come before this, and they're higher budget, because this definitely looks like an indie horror flick type budget here, but it also looks a little bit truer to the comic books. Am I wrong there?
I've never read the Hellboy comic books, and I'm not going to, but the thing that's really sticking out to me is not how true it is or anything like that. It's more that in a storyline where you have Hellboy, there needs to be a lot more demon content, and the Hellboys I've seen fell short of that. And that is the thing that it excites me mainly about this. That said, you're on like Appalachia TikTok. Why are you not interested in this? This takes place in Appalachia.
Appalachia TikTok freaks me the hell out.
Then why are you on it?
I'm not. So, okay, I know this is a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm scrolling through TikTok. I'm doing my normal like bedtime procrastination. It is like 11:30 at night. I'm watching cute animal videos. There's like pandas rolling down hills like that. Scroll up. There's like a kitty doing the like that. Scroll some more. All of a sudden I'm an Appalachia talk because TikTok thinks like, hey, it's midnight, time to freak you the frick out. And I go down like the skinwalker thing, and it's more of a like fascination. Once I'm on it, the algorithm keeps feeding it to me because I watch it because I'm like morbidly curious what the hell I'm watching. And like it's also one of those things where I'm really freaked out, but like I can't look away. So I finish the video and then it just keeps feeding me them because it's like, oh, well, you watched the entirety of that 3-minute video. Here you go. Have some more. And then I freak myself out. And then I'm like, okay, I need to run into my bed now. Like, when you were a little kid and you turned the lights off and you dove into your bed because like you didn't want something to grab your feet, and like you didn't know what was going to grab your feet, but like it was dark. You had to dive into your bed. That's me after Appalachia TikTok. So like this, I don't think I would be able to watch. I think it would scare me a lot. Like that's the other thing too. I feel like the previous, and again, for people who like Hellboy and for people who like scary stuff, the previous Hellboys were a little bit too like glossy.
They're too funny.
Yes. This is terrifying. And I think this is the vibe that Hellboy needs to have. And I think it's the vibe that Hellboy is finally getting. So for people who can actually sit through this and not pee themselves, I'm very excited for you. Now, I do have some concerns, like some of the lower budget indie horror films that I have watched begrudgingly, like they're not always super well done. But I think because of the property and because the comic creator is, involved in the production of this movie, I feel like they'll do it justice and it won't be bad. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it won't be bad. And I feel like people will be shockingly surprised that this will probably turn out to be like one of the indie hits that kind of becomes like a cult classic over time. That is my call on this movie.
Half right. I think Hellboy has fallen into this category of, hey, this is for the fans. If you're not a fan of Hellboy, you don't need to see this. This isn't for you. And it's gonna do fine, and it's gonna please the fans, and everyone's gonna be happy. I don't think it's gonna be like a huge summer hit. It's gonna do exactly what it tends to do.
That's not what I mean though. Like I don't think this is gonna be like a summer blockbuster, but there is a smaller subsection of movie fans who love horror films. And they might not even be Hellboy fans. They might not even care about Hellboy. But I think this will even draw those people in because this looks like a scary movie that just happens to have Hellboy in it, which is kind of like the whole shtick. Hellboy, isn't he supposed to be the guy who like goes around and fights minor demons and evil entities? And like he was never supposed to be this super campy, larger than life character that the modern movies have kind of made him into. Like they tried to make him too big budget. He should really be more like Sam and Dean in Supernatural, running around fighting like evil entities, and this movie is kind of doing that. So I think there's going to be that draw from horror movie fans who might not even care necessarily about Hellboy. And so you'll kind of get those two crowds. And because it's, a smaller budget take on this, I think they'll probably be successful in at least making their money back and a little bit then some, just because think about all of the creepy movies that Illeagle loves. Every time there's a trailer for some creepy movie where there's like a girl with black dripping hair crawling out of some weird thing, or there's an exorcism or something, Illeagle is like, yo, let's go. I feel like this would be up his alley. Like Hellboy would probably turn him off of it. But if you were like, hey, this is a character you don't know, he just happens to be a demon, he would be all over this.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with that. Let's get him on board. I think we can get him on board either way, honestly.
Yeah, I think it would be fairly easy. He likes that scary shit. That's not for me.
We'll get you on board. I'm just gonna start watching and be like, oh, what's this? I'm like, why don't you take a seat? And
will literally.
I will Appalachia talk you is what I'm going to do. You're gonna go, oh, what's that? And then you're gonna not be able to look away.
But then I'm not going to be able to sleep, and you're going to need to live with the consequences of that.
I already live with the consequences of you being unable to sleep.
That's fair. All right, so we're going to take a little bit of a break before we go into the third topic. But before we do, I would be remiss. Sorry, I got to steal Illeagle's line there. If I did not shout out our wonderful Patreon producer, Steven Keller. Steven, you're out there. You're listening. Please take a bow. He's fantastic. He has subscribed to us on Patreon at our highest tier, so he gets this shout out every week, as well as guest segments on the show, which will be coming up soon, access to our monthly secret segments, our monthly vlogs, and voting on our quiz topics, which unfortunately we won't have a quiz for the next few weeks, but if you aren't familiar with the show, we do some really cool trivia quiz games at the end of every episode. So in a few weeks, check back, stay tuned, because he gets to vote on them and choose what topics we learn about every week. If you want to be as cool as Steven, I know I sure do. You want to head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. You can subscribe at one of 3 different tiers, the page, the squire, or the knight, whatever you would like to help us keep the lights on, and you would be forever in our debt. And with that, it is now break time.
Late at night, on September 27th, 1977, 3 terrible things happened in the small town of Garrison. An infant was stolen from its crib, never to be seen again. A forest fire sparked just a mile down the road, and the first in a series of grisly murders rocked the town. All had one thing in common. They were perpetrated by what those in the town called the Shadow Man. I'm going to bring you along on my investigation into just who the Shadow Man is. Welcome to Strange Trails. I'm your host, Finn Mitchell.
And we are back. The final topic we're going to be talking about is Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the Avengers as Victor Von Doom, which, what the heck? And I'm going to start with the what the heck reaction, and then I'm going to potentially explain it away. So in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we've seen a wide array of alternate realities and worlds that can manifest itself. And so we can kind of use that hand-wavy gesture, right, in the Avengers to say, oh, this is why this same guy looks like Doom. But to have the same exact person play as Victor, I that's where I'm confused. I want to know, are they going to say Tony Stark took this path to become Doctor Doom, or is this guy Victor Von Doom? I don't know. And it's really unsettling because there's a lot of other actors in the world. And then the other thing that is kind of concerning is we always see these fan cast of Tom Cruise as Tony Stark in all of these fan things. And I really don't want that. So I hope they're not going to backfill an alternate dimension Tony Stark as another actor and then have him be Victor Von Doom. It's very unsettling. I don't like it. And then the other side of it is we've seen John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, but we also know Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. So what universe is going on here? There's so many different actors, and I'm just getting unsettled. What they did to Robert Downey Jr. in the Avengers Endgame was a perfect send-off for him, and it just absolutely spits in the face of that.
Okay, I have many comments and questions for you, even, because I'm not familiar with Doctor Doom. I'm not familiar with his game. I don't know his backstory. Nothing. First and foremost, is this our next Thanos? Is this the big bad? Because I know
Doctor Doom would have to be the next big bad.
Well, because I forgot the guy's name, but the guy who sucked and was a terrible person, so then they axed him and his roles from the MCU moving
Kane?
forward. Yes, thank you. But like the actor in real life, he was a not good guy. Like he was supposed to be the big bad, so this is like the replacement, essentially, right?
That's what that would have to be, right?
And they're bringing the Russo brothers back, so this feels like a way to like reset the vision. But look, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. First of all, freaking hate the multiverse. Like it is literally my least favorite part of the MCU. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Hate the different timelines. Hate how convoluted it has made the MCU. I thought the MCU's strength was its characters, and I think by reusing characters in different alternate universes, it's just muddied the waters and not been great.
See, but Deadpool might retcon all of this. We haven't seen it yet, so there might be a piece there.
Okay, fine. I don't care though. I think it's just bad. And I think if this is truly like an alternate dimension version of Tony Stark, that's bad. If this is just somebody in an alternate dimension who happens to look like Tony Stark or something, I don't know, that's bad. I don't like it.
What if they're setting up to just have a standalone Fantastic Four with Doctor Doom?
I doubt it. You don't. I'm sorry. The way that they've set up their entire franchise, nothing is standalone anymore in the MCU. It just isn't. It really isn't. Like even Venom, which technically was not an MCU movie, like that had its weird little like Easter eggs. Nothing is standalone in this universe. So like that would be, I guess, great, but it's not going to happen. You and I both know that. Now, my second thing, Robert Downey Jr., like he left the MCU for a reason. So either they threw a wad of cash at him because they need him to come back and be their savior and they think this is the way, or B, he just like has not much going on. But like I know he has had big roles since leaving the MCU, but like is his career stagnating? Like is he just falling back on this? Is like his golden parachute? Like why would he even want to do this? I don't even understand why he would want to do this. I don't understand why the MCU would want to do this. They put a pin in Robert Downey Jr. in the MCU. I don't understand why we're opening this Pandora's box again. It just feels like fan pandering because they know they're losing people, and I don't like that either.
It makes Hollywood feel significantly smaller than it actually is.
Yeah, you're right.
And we live in a world where we have amazing graphical technology at our fingertips. We have writers that can really write really, really good stories. We have a vast, vast pool of talent, yet we're imposing stupid deadlines, crunching out to like bloat all of this content and reusing the same actors. And it's becoming terrible to watch. And I'm not even talking the shows. I'm talking this franchise just crumbling. It is painful to watch. And I really hope it is something good. I do, because I love Robert Downey Jr., but I am just so unbelievably pessimistic that I sound like Illeagle.
Right? Like, I don't like sounding like Illeagle, and yet here we are sounding like Illeagle. And now, okay, I have some other questions for you, though. Dr. Doom, I thought he never takes off his, like, mask ever, right?
Well, I mean,
I know they creative liberties.
Comic-Con.
They'll do whatever. No, but, like, what is the point? You have a character who, historically in the comics, does not...
It off.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh. Like, not often. Like, I just don't understand why this even had to be a thing. You have a character who wears a mask. Why are you casting Robert Downey Jr.?
Well, because they might want to start it as a backstory on how he came to be.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't know. This is bad. And they should feel bad. And maybe it'll turn out to be great, but I don't think it will.
Are you thinking they could have maybe started like, hey, this is this bad guy, and then did like a Scooby-Doo reveal later on, and then did a backstory later on when they wanted to flesh it out? Absolutely. That's fair.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of franchises where they've done that. And I mean, we know...
Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Even with Thanos, like, we kind of got drip-fed Thanos. Like, didn't he first appear kind of as like a silhouette? And like, over time, they built up that character. And I feel like that is a better approach than just saying, hey, we have to scramble and replace our last big bad because of like legal issues. Here's Robert Downey Jr. Get hype. Like,
yeah, seeing Thanos pull the strings in the background was done really well. That is an excellent point. I had forgotten about the way that they did that in the post-credit scenes.
like they literally made post-credit scenes relevant with that technique. And now they're telling us, hey, there's no mystery around this big bad. It is Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, you bring up a whole nother point. Post-credit scenes at one point or a glimpse into the next thing that's coming. They at some point pivoted from like Thanos hints to, hey, look, there's another superhero. Hey, look, there's a shield. And it got corny. Oh man, you're totally ruining it for me.
And this whole thing, like, I have given the MCU more grace than I feel like Illeagle has over the last few years. Like, I have been willing to watch the new movies and I have been willing to watch the bad Disney Plus shows. Not all of them are terrible. But, like, this is one of those things to me that kind of feels a little like final straw-ish. And I hate that for me because I really loved this franchise. And, like, this just feels way too gimmicky. I don't know, Techtic, do you have anything else to say? Do you have anything you like might like shed a light? Has Tony Stark ever been Doctor Doom? Is there like a universe where this happened? Like a multiverse scenario? Do you know? I need something to show that like this is based on something and not just a dumb marketing ploy, because I hate that. All right, so apparently, and there are apparently versions of Doctor Doom that are Tony Stark. So one of them is in the 2010 What If Iron Man Demon. I guess Victor Von Doom swapped bodies with Tony Stark in college and then became, I don't know, that seems like a weird version of this. The other one is Iron Maniac, where Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom. And then there's also a scenario where Doctor Doom, after Tony Stark is left comatose, becomes the infamous Iron Man because he basically forges his own Iron Man suit to carry on Tony's legacy. So those are some scenarios I guess they could play out, but I don't
think any of those. I think if anything, it's going to take the perfect or the infamous Iron Man route, I believe it was, where there's another world where Iron Man kind of keeps developing his suit. And he sees himself as superior to all other races and then basically becomes corrupt with power. And I could see that transformation of him becoming Doom adjacent, but I don't think it's going to be them taking liberty from one single source. It'll be probably a culmination of several sources, if anything.
But yeah, I don't feel good about this. And it just makes me sad. That's how I feel about it. Illeagle, if you're out there, share with us your thoughts. I'm sure we'll be talking to you about this, but like, man, I would love to pick his brain about this. I feel like he would go on a tirade. He would hate this. Maybe he'd love it. I don't know. I would genuinely love to know. So those are the three major topics that we plucked out of the SDCC announcements. There are many more. There's a ton of stuff every year that gets dropped at San Diego Comic-Con, but those are the three that we wanted to talk about this week. If there was anything else that you wanted to talk about, hit us up on Twitter at OnlineWarriors1, at OW Nerdbomber. He's at OW Techtic. Chat us up. Let us know what you thought was cool coming out of San Diego Comic-Con that we maybe didn't talk about, or what your thoughts are on any of this news, whether it's Bizarro, Tony Stark, or the Hellboy trailer, or the new Boys spinoff. Let us know what you're thinking. Before we wrap up for the day, we do have to get into the What Are You Up To Wednesday? Techtic, would you like to go first?
Sure thing. We went to the zoo and we saw polar bears and those things with the long things on their head. They're not quite antelope, but they look like deers with
like
spiked
addicts or something
addicts?
like that.
Oh, those things are cool.
They're in the beginning of The Lion King. They're the ones that sang Deception. Disgrace. I thought for a second you were going to finish it with me, and I got a little sad.
And like, let me get wrong. I love going into the zoos, but there's always a part of me that's like, man, this should be a lot bigger. Because like, I get that zoos a lot of the time are there to introduce people to animals, but also be a location for like those animals are in need of rehabilitation and things like that. But like, zoos in like the middle of cities and they're like smaller. I want all zoos to be like in the middle of nowhere on as many acres as possible. And it would make me so happy. So like support your zoo and also support your zoo in moving to as big of a location as possible. Those are my two things. But yeah, other than that, I've really just kind of been putzing.
And then on my end, I've actually been getting into the Olympics. I've been watching a lot of stuff. Like the Olympics started a few days ago, and because of the time zone difference, a lot of stuff is dropping at like late at night, like 2, 3 in the morning for us. So I've been watching a lot of like replays of stuff, but like getting into beach volleyball, got really into like the skateboarding, like the street skateboarding competition, and even surfing. And I learned a lot about how surfing is scored and judged and how you even like compete in surfing. And to be honest, I think that was probably one of the things that I learned the most about, because I don't know if any of you are familiar with surfing, but one of the things that always confused me was like, how do you grade people based on like a natural phenomenon? Like, how are you not using a wave pool so everyone gets the same scenarios? And essentially it's like head to head. So they're both out there and one person gets priority based on who paddles out like the fastest. And then that person can basically block the other person from doing any given wave. But then if they take that wave, then they don't have first priority anymore. But then essentially you're just, trying to ride the biggest waves, be in the barrel, I think that's called the barrel of the wave the longest. And they're essentially competing for the same waves. And they have like half an hour or so to get the 2 highest like wave ride scores possible. So I had no idea that's how surfing was scored. And it does have a lot more downtime than other Olympic sports because obviously like they have to wait for the waves to come in. But I just thought it was really fascinating. So I'm learning a lot about a lot of sports that I don't typically engage with. And I would urge you over the next like 2 weeks or however long the Olympics are going on, like give it a watch. Pick a sport that you don't really know a lot about. Learn something new because it's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. All right. So with that, we bid you adieu. We hope you have a wonderful next couple of weeks. We will be back in your ear holes, like I said, next week with an interview from one of our previous interviews. And then in a couple weeks, we'll all be back for a grand reunion talking about the latest nerdy news. As always, we appreciate you guys for taking the time to listen to us. We know you have a lot of options and we appreciate you guys landing on the Online Warriors podcast. And with that, stay safe and keep on podcasting.